Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bowtie Certified, episode number 8. My name is Anthony Tsavelos, and on Bowtie Certified, we follow the journey of others through certifications and how learning has given them great benefits. Again, my name is Anthony Tsavelos. I am a certified trainer. I'm also a course creator for Google Cloud. And today, I do not have a guest. Unfortunately, my guest had fallen through. And so I decided to take this opportunity to share with you all my journey and what it was like going from being a fashion designer to somebody who thrived in the tech world. And yeah, a lot of people haven't heard my journey, and somebody had asked me the other day, so I figured, why not share it? So yeah, here it goes. Started off when I was 10 years old, and I started to sew when I was 10 years old. And it was all because I had asked my mother, Mom, you got to sew my pants, because at the time, the big trend was to get these construction pants and taper them as skinny as possible. So back then, I guess they didn't have spandex for pants, or they didn't yet become a trend or a thing. So yeah, I started to I started to ask my mom, like, Mom, let's go, let's get it done. And she was always too busy because she was a working mom. And so I decided to take it on myself. And I started to sew, and I broke a lot of needles along the way. And it was fun, and it was a great learning experience. And so I followed that throughout my high school career. And at 17, about 17 years old, I had done my first fashion show. And that's when I knew that fashion was for me. And I got on the bandwagon, and I went to university. You know, I did all the things that most people would do getting out of high school. And I quickly realized after the first semester that university was not for me. And I wasn't sure whether I wasn't prepared enough, or whether I was just too advanced for the course that I was taking. But either way, I had dropped out, and I started to work in the industry, but more of a worker, as in, working in tailor shops. So I worked with my uncle for a little bit, learning how to sew suits and vests and stuff. And I started to work in lingerie factories, coat factories, t-shirt factories. Actually, the t-shirt factory actually taught me a lot. And that's where I had used my time on after work, and I had started sewing garments. So I had asked my boss at the time, I said, hey, do you mind if I sew up some garments after my shift? And he was like, yeah, sure, go ahead. And so I started sewing them, and I started selling them on the fashion strip. And sure enough, a boutique picked it up, and I realized very quickly that entrepreneurship is exactly what I thought it would be. It was really cool. I was making some good money. Well, I mean, back then, sewers didn't make much. So making that little bit of extra money really helped me. And so it got to the point where I was making these garments and I was selling them out, that I started just making more. And I decided to just start doing it on my own. So I figured that maybe if I got some more formal training, that I would be able to create better garments. And so I went back to school a second time and quickly realized after the first year, this is a couturier school. For those of you who are unfamiliar with couturier, this is high fashion. So a lot of things were hand sewn, a lot of attention to detail. But after the first year, I realized it wasn't for me. So I dropped out again. And I started doing my own thing. I started sewing for myself again. And I was really enjoying it. And it got to the point where I was sewing full time while I was working at a fabric store. And I started to get a lot of clients who were in the club industry. And so I started sewing more garments for the club, for people in the club industry. And it got to the point where I was making great headway. And so I decided to continue with it. And that's when something interesting happened. And I had met my now wife, who was in fashion merchandising. I had met her in the club industry. And so after a month of dating, we decided, hey, let's start our own fashion label. And so that's what we did. Like a bunch of crazy 20-year-olds, we decided we were going to open up our own fashion biz. And we started making our own garments under our own label. And, it was really fun. I learned about production. I learned about how things work with regards to production, whether it be the fabric mills, the factories, anything that had to do with the garment, even down to the buttons and zippers. You'd be surprised at how much there is to know about buttons and zippers. It's incredible. And so I traveled to a lot of places across North America. I traveled to trade shows in Las Vegas, and it was at our peak. We were selling to about 40 boutiques across North America. And I was getting really passionate about this, and it was what I was looking for in my life at the time. But something happened in the year of 2003. The Canadian apparel industry took a turn for the worst, and the government had decided to open up free trade to China. And this was the implosion of the fashion industry within Canada. So we had a lot of mills closed down. We had a lot of factories closed down. And me and my wife were very proud that we were made in Canada. And so we didn't want to go to China, even though we could get the price of 10 garments, what we were paying in Canada for one garment. So it was a no-brainer for money, but it was the values that actually drove us to make the decision that we were going to just ride it out. So we rode it out as long as we could. And then it went from living well to living just above poverty level. It was, for a while, it was trying. You can only ignore it for so long. And then there came my eye-opening moment. And I'm sure everyone has this eye-opening moment, but mine was when I was digging through the couch for change so I can buy a coffee. And that's when I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this for the sake of me and my family. As a man, and call me old school if you like, but I wanted to provide for my family. I felt like it was my duty as the man of the family to provide. And the fact that I couldn't, it kind of broke me up inside. So I decided, you know what, I have to do something about this. And because I put it out into the universe, I guess. The next day, my neighbor showed up he came into my loft. At the time I was living in a loft. And so there was a lot of different lofts in our building. And he said to me, he's like, Anthony, I'm making so much money from this one company that hired me. I'm so overwhelmed. I need people to help me. Do you know anything about databases? And there was a part of me that was like, Anthony, you're in over your head. But I said to myself, you know what? Screw it. I told him, I said, how hard can it be? Give me about a week and I'll see what I can do. And so when he left, I furiously hit the keyboard and went to town, looking on, I guess, all the torrent sites. So for those of you who are not familiar with torrent sites, it's a way to look for pirated content. And I'm not a big proponent of pirated content, but at the time I had to make ends meet. I had to look for something that would allow me to make more money. And so I looked for videos, demonstrations, anything, but all I could find was ebooks. And as frustrated as you may think it was, I managed to go through them as dry as it was, and I realized I'm not going to learn this overnight. There's no way that I can learn this in a week. So I decided to put together a strategy, and I went back to school. I went back to a community college for a database administration program. And that's where I learned things like everything from databases to Linux and Unix. It was a lot of sleepless nights learning about joins and schemas and tables, all on Oracle and SQL Server, and learning the insides and outsides of Linux and Unix. So I managed to really understand it because I wanted to get myself out of this situation that I was in. And I saw this as a golden opportunity, especially since I didn't have the money. I actually got a loan from the government. So I was automatically in debt. But I knew that the amount of money that, you know, my neighbor had told me he was making, I was like, you know, this is all well worth it. So I decided, what the heck? Naturally, my wife was scared, but after furiously looking for a job, I hit up every site possible. I hit up every person that I knew in tech, anyone that could or had the ability to pimp me out. They had my resume, and I made sure that I followed up with them. And so 6 months later, I landed my first job in technology at Citigroup as a Unix administrator. Because unfortunately, a lot of people don't want juniors handling their databases, especially when it comes to production. And I found that out the hard way because I was looking for jobs as a database administrator for 3 to 4 months until I finally decided I'm going to switch over and start looking for Linux or Unix administration jobs. And that's when I landed my first job. And so this was a moment in time for me where after a month, I received biweekly paychecks. And so after the second paycheck, I remember calling up my wife and I said, Laura, I feel like I'm winning the lottery every 2 weeks, because that's how much money I was making. I mean, compared to being broke. So it was it was just phenomenal. I was like, wow. So a little bit of learning and some certifications got me to where I was at. And so I started to really take that in, and I started to learn more about what it was that I was doing, about Linux and Unix. I kind of left the databases aside at the moment, and I started to really focus on what I was doing and what I was good at. So, um, so yeah, I started to do that for a while. I was at Citigroup for approximately 2.5 years, and that's when the ball dropped again. And um, Citigroup Toronto had announced that they were moving all of their offices to Texas. And so they said, Anthony, if you are not moving to Texas, unfortunately, you will no longer have a job. And so that was the time where I got laid off. The first time. That was my first layoff. There was 3, but I'll get into that in a moment. So the first time I was laid off, I decided that, you know what, I'm going to go back to entrepreneurship. And so I decided to start my own company called Mobile Genius. And I went to small businesses and helped them act like a big company with a lot of big technologies. And that's where I first encountered cloud. So for those of you who are familiar with anything Google, I was setting up Google Apps for Business. That's what it was called back then. It then moved to Google Apps, and then G Suite, and now Google Workspaces. So you can see how far back that went. And so I was setting them up, and people were amazed at how productive they could be. The fact that they could get the same email on their phone as they could on their computer. It was eye-opening for so many. And so I helped a lot of people. I helped a lot of businesses. And at one point, I even did a 70-person migration all by myself, with 3 different locations for one company. And that was really a test to my experience and to my pursuit of excellence in the technology industry. But there came a point in time where I didn't exactly have the business savvy to know exactly how to market technology or my technology business. And so I had decided to take up an offer from a friend of mine who worked at another company. And he's like, Anthony, I think you would work well with me and my team. And I worked with him back at Citigroup. So he was like, come and work with me. I said, yes. I ended up becoming a Windows systems administrator for approximately 1.5 years. And then happened layoff number 2. I wasn't sure what I was going to do then, because I didn't really have a plan. I didn't have a strategy. And at the time, my mind was going back to digging through the couch for change. And I said, that is never going to happen again. So I decided to take a couple of months off, and I decided to get into cloud. Cloud was becoming the big thing. And so I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to get a couple of certifications underneath me, and chances are it'll probably help me. And so I studied for a couple months, and I did land a job even though I didn't have a certification. And it was an entry-level job as a Amazon Web Services architect. And so I was working for a company that would take people who were, or take companies that were currently in their data centers and move them to cloud and find them, the proper architecture, what it would be like, how much it would cost, the whole 9. And sure enough, after 6 months, the company wasn't sure where they wanted to go with their business. And that's when the next layoff happened. Layoff number 3. And I was just so confused why this kept on happening to me. And I decided not to dwell on it. I decided that, you know what, I did enough learning to understand what I needed to do. And so I went out and I got another 2 certifications as I took another month off. And that landed me a job that was paying twice as much as my last job. And I was ecstatic and didn't realize the possibilities of both cloud and the fact that certifications can actually get you somewhere, especially with the learning that comes involved with getting those certifications. So, um, so yeah, I worked hard and I started to become really proficient at cloud. I started to get more certifications. And eventually I was, I became in demand because it was now so hot that there was so much work, but not enough people to fill that work. And so I was getting contacted by, I think at my peak, I would say 15 recruiter messages a day from both email and LinkedIn. And this is where I was just like, wow, I can't believe that this is happening. But it was all due to the fact that I decided to not give in to just being comfortable where I was at. And I just kept on learning. And it got to the point where I had probably 9 certifications at the time. And I was really loving the learning. And I was loving the learning so much that other people saw my passion in that learning. And they started asking me, Anthony, how did you do it? Do you sleep at night? I said, no, I'm just very efficient with my time. And I really want to learn these new technologies because it allows me to better myself, and it allows my customers to take advantage of these newer technologies and become more profitable and more automated because of it. And so I did exactly that. And I I started teaching people. And I quickly realized that my passion was to help people, and I could do it through learning. So why not just do it? And so I decided that's what I'm going to do. So I started teaching people um, through certification courses. And I did my first certification prep course, which was the Google Cloud Security Engineer course. And I had did that, and with a lot of success, I managed to really get a feel for it and to understand that it's a lot of difficult work, but in the end, uh, over 7,000 people have taken my course so far, and it had a 90% success rate. And to me, that was well worth it. I mean, the amount of people that I was thinking about, how one certification can change their lives, and the learning behind it was just incredible. So I decided to do it more. And so this is where I went back to corporate, and the big corporate, and I started to work for a consulting company. But I started to teach in that consulting company. And it was very fulfilling. It was very fulfilling to see people pass and get a certification, and the learning behind it gave them the openings that they needed in order to advance their career and to better their lives for them and their families. So I just kept on doing it, and it just got to the point where um, I had a friend approach me. His name is Adrian Cantrell. So shout out to you, Adrian. He'd approached me and said, Anthony, you should be doing this yourself full time because you're really good at it. And I did some humming and hawing for a bit, talked to my wife about it, and she was like, yeah, it sounds like a great strategy. And so I decided that I was going to go out on my own. And I started to build this course that I am currently building for Google Cloud. And this is the entry level associate cloud engineer certification prep course. And I realized that it was a lot of hard work, but I understand the benefits behind it. And I am so glad that I did this, that I jumped in. It's taken me almost a little over 4 months to get to where I'm at, and I'm extremely proud that I did, because I know how many people that I can touch, and I know how many people that I can truly help by creating these courses. And so I want to continue to do that, and that was my my goal when doing this. And so that is my journey from fashion to technology. And so I'm going to take a moment to go through the comments. Yes, Brian Schulman, thank you for tuning in. And Surrender, good to see you. Changes are required for sure. Yes. We can definitely do more than what we think. Yes, absolutely. When we really put our mind to it, there's nothing that we can't do. I mean, I had moments of doubt. I think we all go through it. You know, it's this little nasty thing called imposter syndrome, and it can really take you down. But if you want something that bad, there's no doubt that you can achieve it. There's no doubt that you can go out there and get it. So yeah, Surrender, you're absolutely right. And yeah, Brian is saying shout out to the crazy 20-year-olds. Yes. For those of you who are in your 20s, I highly recommend to, if you're looking at going to school, decide why you want to go to school. Because there's always the opportunities where you don't need school, and maybe all you want to do is try it. And so without spending all this money, you can always get into an industry. Anyone is always looking for juniors just to help out, or even, you know, if you want to just try it for like a week, go and do it. There's nothing stopping you. I think that, you know, we're, as coming from an older age group, my generation was taught that, you know, once we finish high school, we need to go to university, or we need to go to college, because that's where you start making money, you know, higher education. But now we have so much opportunity where education is not just in a university, it's everywhere. I mean, there are so many websites that you can go to where you can learn so much with regards to coding, with regards to cloud, security, absolutely anything, even outside of the technology industry. You know, I've had people that have commented on my show asking, you know, how do I get out of the technology industry? And that's to try. Try, taste, see what you like. But you don't know until you try. And so I highly recommend that, you know, even if you're in your 40s, go out there and try something new. Try something that you're passionate about. See if you like it. I mean, you know, if you're looking for a formal education and you thrive on that, then by all means, go out to university, college, and get what it is that you need in order to thrive and succeed. But if you're uncertain, then why not just try it? It's not going to cost you any money. I mean, you know, you may live a little below what you want with regards to income for a bit, but you won't be sorry later on in life. You won't have the what if moments, and those are the moments that you want to avoid. So it looks like there's no more questions in the comments, but I did want to touch on the learning and certification for a moment. With regards to that, I've had a lot of people approach me saying, I want to get the certification because I want a better job. Now, with regards to that, you can definitely get a better job with a certification as long as you've actually learned something by getting that certification. So you can't expect to get a certification and then the next day you get this amazing job that pays $140,000 a year. It doesn't work like that. How it works is if you show that you learn something through that certification and that you've gained knowledge and that you are able to do the job, then yes, absolutely. Look forward to that big paycheck because that's what you deserve. But just getting a certification will not get you a job. It will get you through the door, and it's gotten many through the door. It's gotten me through the door. So many times people are like, "Oh, you're certified. Come on in for an interview." But in the interview, if you're not shining, people will know. People will see through it. So when it comes to certifications, don't hesitate to spend the extra time and learn exactly what it is that you're certified in. So if you're an associate level, learn everything that you can with regards to that certification and the resources that are that you're supposed to know. So don't fake it till you make it, because that doesn't exist. It's either you know it or you don't. And it's okay to not know it, but you need to be upfront about it. So if I go into a job interview and somebody asks me, do you know this? It's either I do or I don't. If I tell them I do and they start digging, chances are I'll flunk. I'll not only embarrass myself, but I won't get the job. And because the industry is very small and very tight knit, word can travel. And if you are in a specific city, that word can travel to other companies where a lot of people know each other. And, there's many times where I've gotten messages from other people saying, hey, what do you think about this guy? And I tell people the truth. And no doubt that the shoe is on the other foot when it comes to me. So when people ask, how is Anthony? I expect them to tell them the honest truth. And so what I'm trying to get at is be transparent. And if you don't know something, say you don't know it. And that's okay, because we're all here learning together. I want to give a quick shout out to Tech Study Slack, which is a great learning resource. There's a ton of people in there. There's almost 13,000 people now. And this is a community where everyone is learning together. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of answers. People are so full of life, and there's a lot of people who want to learn. And in the technology industry, it's no different, because everyone is looking to get ahead. Everyone is looking to um, to basically make it, and to better themselves, and to allow for a better life. And for those who are really passionate about tech, it's, I mean, when you're talking to other people about something that you don't know, that they may know, it's eye-opening. It really is. And that can be very exciting, very exciting. So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover with this episode. And so I'm looking for some new people to come on and talk to the rest of the audience about their stories and how they made it in tech. Or if you are a recruiter, if you can give us some insight as to what people are looking for in technology currently, and what you've seen in interviews, and maybe some tips and tricks, as well as people who are working for the big cloud companies, or the big people, or sorry, the big companies that are doing certifications, and give us some insight as to what are people learning, how are people getting ahead, and some strategies behind it. So that's pretty much it for my live stream today. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And I hope you enjoyed my story. I hope it inspires you to go out and do something great. And so until next week, keep striving and keep learning. Bye for now.